since 7. I thought
All
it was starting
right.
at 7.
Hello,
Yeah.
everyone. How you doing?
Yeah,
Welcome
good,
to
thanks.
Manyata screening. And we hope you all got a chance to watch those amazing films which were aligned to a theme of discussion tonight, which is Ponder. Who are we? How did we get here? What did we forget? And what should we remember? And I mean, we are living in a strange time, so I'm sure a lot of us have been doing a lot of pondering. I'm your host, Damaris Irungu, a screenwriter and creative producer from Nairobi, Kenya. Joining me live, we've got Emma Nzioka, who I'm going to introduce. So Emma Nzioka gave us the Empty Cup, which is about Jackie, a community response volunteer working from home during the COVID-19 pandemic, with domestic abuse, rape, and police brutality on the rise. The number of cases coming in soon overwhelm her and take a toll on her emotional and mental health. Now, this shot takes the perspective of those we rely on to provide solutions in spite of little financial support and almost no counseling of their own to help them cope with the grim nature of their work. Emma is a multidisciplinary artist based in Nairobi, Kenya, a holder of the WIFA Cinematographer of the Year 2021. She's worked in the film industry for over 8 years and has garnered professional experience in the fields of location scouting, cinematography, editing, as well as directing. Her works include feature film Musala, directed by Mugambi Mfiga. He's gonna kill me for butchering his name. Where he worked as a fast food cinematographer on One Fine Day film production. She also went on to work with director Akwol Demabior. You'll tell me if I got that name right. On the
Yes, you
feature
did.
documentary
Well done.
Nyanden, which won first prize at the Wickers Award. We also have Agi Nyagari,
Correct.
who shown us the film Wormhole, about three men who are each lost in their own world as they drown in isolation thanks to the pandemic. But we're all in this together, sometimes even more connected than we know. So, Agi is a film director, TV, and web content creator. She's worked in the Kenyan film and TV industry since 2007, first as a grip, then a video editor, cutting music videos, films, and TV content, and then eventually working as a promo producer for Zuku TV. Agi later moved into directing and worked on various TV content, including movies, drama series, talk shows, as well as films for cinema release. Agi was a director and co-producer of the YouTube web series Janjaruka, which was first released in 2019. Her feature film Lisilo Julikana also won an award in Canada in 2018. All right. So good to have you guys here. We don't have Alex here, but we will get on with it. Karibuni sana. So
Thank you.
I'd
Thank
like
you,
to
Damaris.
Karibuni. I'd like to start by asking you guys about the inspiration behind your films. You know, what inspired this story idea? And maybe we can start with you, Emma.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. First of all, wow, powerhouse women. I'm so excited to be in this presence right now. So I did this film last year in the thick of the pandemic. First of all, the pandemic was just the state of confusion to me. I work as a DJ, and I was supposed to be on tour last year, but everything came to a crashing halt. And I was like, I need to stay creative. I need to do something. So I just typed online. I went and found an open call by the Ladima Foundation for short films, and the theme was African women in the time of COVID. And I was like, I am African, I'm a woman, it's COVID, wonderful. I'm gonna just jump in and create something. And the limitation was you had to create something that was impactful in 2 minutes about women in COVID. And so I thought about it, and I like to think outside of the theme. The theme kind of shows me the direction in which I want to go, but I was like, I feel like we have focused a lot on the victims, and understandably so. However, there's people who've been responding to all of these emergency cases that have been rising in the country, and what is their current state of mind? How are they surviving? What support are they getting or not getting? In the case of the CRVs, the first responders in the country who are volunteers, how are they surviving, what goes through their minds. So this is what I decided to go with as an idea, and the inspiration came from this group on Facebook called Usikimye. So Usikimye is an NGO, and they highlight and sort of, they are all first they respond to these cases, they volunteer and respond to these cases that are gender-based violence, and it's not limited to just women and children, it's like boys as well. You hear some very horrific stories going on there, but they keep going. And one of the people who work there called out for assistance with bus fare, 50 bob. And I was like, if you're asking for bus, like, since you're working as a volunteer, how are you surviving? How are you paying your rent? How are you eating? Have you even eaten today? You know. So I just wrote them on Facebook, and I asked for the number, and I sent the 50 bob. But I was like, I want to know more about your organization. I want to like just delve further into your state of mind. And there's a few organizations that have volunteered mental health services to them, but it was just not. It's not a pretty picture, so I just wanted to explore this.
And it actually shows when we watch the film. It actually shows that she actually took time to dig into that emotional state, because we get that sense in that 2 minutes that we watch the film. We actually get to feel this person's, like, journey completely. So thank you for that story. And okay, Aggie, would you tell us about the inspiration behind your very interesting story?
Okay, hi guys. First of all, thank you again for this opportunity, and thanks and well done, Emma. That's amazing. I haven't watched the film yet because I came on just after it's screened, but I'll catch up on it. But yeah, it sounds amazing, your journey into diving into this world. So I hope you enjoy the ride. For me, basically my inspiration was COVID, obviously. You know, this whole time living in the screens, just on Zoom, talking to everyone, it's become more accessible to talk to people. Even though we could always talk to people, it's like COVID showed us that we didn't have to move around to connect as much as we thought. And then it just made me think, I'd love to make a film where we are each individually filming from our remote places and bringing it together and making it one story. So yeah, COVID, and then it making me think like that, and then talking to my friends and then getting it done.
Okay, great. And you're gonna come and tell us, just the pre-prod you had to do to film something in 3 different countries. We are very curious to know how you pulled that off. So Emma, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your process. I mean, you've told us about how you made some calls and just trying to do. So we just want to hear a little bit more about your research and development into doing this 2-minute film.
Yes. So I have a journalistic background. I worked at Nation Media for a very long time. So I always go back into a lot of their stories, their archive stories, or stuff they've put up online. And it wasn't very hard to find a lot of this information, because in the time that I was doing this, there was a very big story about how 4,000 girls in Machakos had just gotten pregnant because a lot of the sectors that have been interrupted, tourism, entertainment, and education, the education sector is what drove me into delving deeper into what's going on with the children staying at home and stuff. So I just went online and gathered a bunch of this information. And another thing that helped is that Jackie, whose actual name is Jackie, had some information from actual community responders, first community responders, emergency responders in her own community. So she talked to a few of these women as well and put me in touch with some of them. And this really helped to solidify the story, I would say. However, when I say that also was a problem, because I don't really see myself as a very seasoned story writer. So the edit is what was a challenge for me, based on how I'd written the story down. However, this is that was the basic process of how I came up with the script and everything. Yeah.
All right, Agi, tell us about your process, and also we're very curious about the pre-prod of making this thing come alive.
I mean, basically, it's communication. So it was just a matter of I'm lucky that I have friends who, you know, are very s- they're very skilled and experienced, and so it was easy to just call upon them, and they're very organized, and it's just a matter of, you know, telling them I have this idea, I want to do this, and they were all on board. And then I had to come up with like an outline. And the annoying thing is, when you have like great minds, sometimes it's great to put them together, but sometimes they end up also having their own ideas. So we did have a bit of a challenge of people coming in saying, "Oh, how about if you make the story this?" And then they would skew completely away from what my vision was. But it's like, no, let's come back to my vision. So that was funny. But then, yeah, it was really good to have that kind of support of people who knew what they were doing and call upon them. And so basically, it was just communication, coming up with an outline, discussing it, and then yeah, telling them what their bit is. The challenge obviously was because I'm not there in person. By the time they sent me the footage, I'd be like, oh gosh, if I was there to direct it, there's some things I would change. It's not exactly how it was in my mind, and this is a challenge. It was a really interesting learning curve where you're directing without being present, so that you give the brief. I mean, obviously we could have done like a Zoom directing, but it was one of those things where you just tell them what to do, and then they're like, okay, when the weather's good, we'll go out and film it. So and then because of time difference, you don't really know exactly when that would be and that kind of thing. So you just have to wait for them to shoot it and send it to you. And because both of them are busy, it was a matter of when, as and when they could do it. So yeah, it was an interesting. Obviously, that, you know, the main thing is just planning and knowing what you want.
So what would you say about the importance of collaboration as a filmmaker? Because, you know, it's one of those industries where we have to collaborate. So what would you say about how collaboration helped you pull this off?
I mean, I couldn't have done it without them. Number one, like, there's just no way it would have happened. So to me, it showed me that it's possible to accomplish so much. You know, the beauty of connection. There's so much you can accomplish without having to be together. And it's the same. It goes across everything. You know, if you look at how people are now, you know, working from home and having meetings from home and, you know, interviews from home, like everything is happening remotely. This is the world we live in now. So there's no way that I would have been able to film that without the collaboration of those filmmakers. It's not possible. So yeah.
Okay. We'll come back to you so you can tell us about grips. I think you're the one who's worked in grip
I have
as a
done, yeah.
chief. I am very curious about that.
Amazing.
I
Tell
have
us
done.
about that as well. So Emma, tell us about, you know, the theme of your story, because you have a very, you know, the theme is very, you know, there's several themes running in your film. So how
Mhm.
important is theme to you as a storyteller?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, when I'm presented a theme, I like for it to just sort of steer me in a general direction, but not really dictate what it is I need to do. So with the theme that we were given, women in the time of COVID, I think initially I wanted to do a story on the women who had faced physical domestic violence in the house. And I was like, I mean, it's an important story to highlight, and it has been on the rise, you know, given the whole state of COVID exposing the rot in society, and, you know, the breakdown of homes and people losing their jobs and just the general frustration. But I felt that the theme kind of just faced me here, and I had like 50 other things to explore. So for me, theme is super important in guiding my direction, but it does not limit me. I don't let it limit what I want to explore, what I want to you know to film. And yeah, so yeah, and it does explore themes of mental wellness as well, which I felt that a lot of people were you know, you've been cooped up in a space, you've just maybe lost your job, you're uncertain, you've never been in a pandemic, like we're making history right now, like, and I just figured that everybody is going through it, like whether or not you're being affected directly, indirectly, it's affecting your economic status. It's like it's making everything so uncertain, and you have to also fear about dying at the same time. So I feel like a lot of people are going through a lot of um, mental frustration and just like general instability going on inside. So that's what I wanted to come through as well. Like, yeah,
Do you
with
find
the
yourself
short.
as a filmmaker leaning towards certain kinds of themes? Because I know myself as a storyteller, I have specific themes that usually just pull at me every time, and I want to tell a story. Like I find myself, I'm creating this really beautiful story, but then when I look closely, it's literally, like almost the same theme as what I've worked on before. So I have themes that touch on me as Damaris as a storyteller. So do you have that as well?
I feel maybe because this is like my directorial debut, I feel that maybe I will stick to similar themes. And it's kind of coincidental that Lusala also explored mental wellness and mental well-being. But I feel that this is a very important thing to explore and to keep pushing on and telling stories about. So I reckon I will be making a lot more films to, revolving around the same the same themes. But yeah, just exploring a lot of new directions as a filmmaker and storytelling. And
All
so,
right,
yeah.
cool. You're watching the Manyata live Q&As. If you have any questions, remember you can just drop them on the chat. If you have any questions for these amazing filmmakers here, feel free to drop them on the chat and we'll get them to them. Agi, you were telling us about, from grips to the director's seat. How did that happen? And how was it like being a chick in grips? Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's a whole movie there, to be honest. How I ended up being a grip was basically when I said I wanted to be a filmmaker to my family, I think they didn't know what that meant. It was like, well, I mean, but when I started out, there wasn't very much happening in film and TV. So my family was really worried that I was never going to have a career and they didn't know how to help me. And so my mom, I think, made some calls, and the only connection she had was of someone who either knew someone or worked at Kenya Grips. And so, or film studios, I think it was film studios. So then we went for a walk, and then I think they said, oh, they're looking for people to work at Kenya Grips. I had no idea what Grips was. I had no idea what I was walking into, but I was just so eager and so young and so hungry. And I was like, if there's some kind of industry I want in, whichever the in is, side door, back door, I'm in. So yeah, so basically I was the only girl working in Grips at the time. As with any, it's not the first time and it wasn't the last time that I was in a situation where I was the only female in my workplace, which has its challenges, as you can imagine. So I did have to deal with very tough experiences as the only girl. You'd think that being the only girl meant I would have more people looking out for me, protecting me. That wasn't the case. It was more, I was fresh meat. But that aside, it was a very, very, very interesting experience because as a grip, I ended up being thrown into films, TV shows, TV ads, commercials, like TV series. Like I was doing big budget, big productions. I was part of Malooned. Like that was my first film. Like if you look at the credits, I'm there as a grip. So it's one of those things which being there, working on a film set with big names, it was such a good way to start. And it opened up so many doors and possibilities. And that's when I started to think, okay, so maybe if I morph into editing and then, I mean, I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of learned by watching and observing and then deciding, okay, maybe this is where I want to be. So then from there, it became, okay, I realized maybe I should focus on I was already in film school. I mean, if you can call it film school, I was in some college in Nairobi. I mean, we didn't have film schools really at the time. So then I did TV and video production in some diploma course in some school in Nairobi. But then it didn't have that much of a focus on filming. So that being exposed allowed me to realize what possibilities there were. And then I went back and focused on editing. And then from there, I realized I really wanted to be a director. So then I worked my way up. And yeah, basically just one thing led to the next, learning from the job more than anything. Learning from mentors, finding role models, that kind of thing.
And it shows in your film because we can see that you're taking risks. You're not thinking in any particular box. You're taking risks. You're doing, I mean, literally just who would think of trying to pull off a short film in 3 different countries? Like really, the thought of it would just make me like, oh no, another day, and I wouldn't pursue it. But you're daring. So I'm just wondering about what do you consider theme when you're thinking of stories, and what particular themes come out of this particular story that we've seen?
I mean, of course, theme is important. Like Emma said, it guides your story. So you know, okay, if the theme is, I don't know, love or loss or heart, whatever it is, it kind of, that's the message you're trying to portray. And you're, even if your story is a comedy or it's a dramedy or whatever it is, that's what you're trying to connect. You're trying to connect that emotion with the audience so that they can get the message and read between the lines. So yeah, that will really, you always have to have something to guide your story. I mean, in terms of the theme for Wormhole, I mean, it's funny, you know, like I worked with people who, yeah, because they're filmmakers, they really, it helped. You know, I couldn't have done this on my own, like I've said. And I'm glad that it inspired and excited them so that they were also throwing, because theme can also morph. You know, you can have one specific theme. When I started out, I was like, I just want to do something where I'm trying to connect 3 different countries. How do I do it when without anybody moving from where they are and without introducing a Zoom laptop, computer, or whatever? But then as I started to, like, that was my theme of how to, you know, connection, communication, compassion, unity, togetherness. That was like my sort of theme. But then sharing and collaborating, as good as it was, and it really was good that they were inspired and excited and they were part of the process, the theme started to morph so that other semi-themes or sub-themes started coming in, and ideas of, oh, what if we make it about the world ending? Or what if we make it about environment? Or make it about, and it was like, okay, hold up. So you could have, like, what I can say is you can have like a mother theme and you can have sub-themes. And at the end of the day, you can have layers in your communication, or whatever the context is, it can be layered. You can have like the main message, but you can have so many other, and I love it when I pull that kind of thing off, where the main thing is I'm trying to communicate love, for example, but through that you've thought and reflected on so many other things, and it's just so much more wholesome. So it can be layered, is what I say.
Awesome, awesome. Emma, would you tell us, and both of you basically, but let's start with Emma, some of your, you know, lessons learned from doing this film, and, you know, and basically we learn a lot more from mistakes. So some of the mistakes maybe you made when doing this film that other people can avoid. We all make mistakes, but we avoid them. So, you know, share some of the mistakes.
Well, so I feel like I could have probably spread the shooting days out to 2 days. I was trying to do everything in one day. So you forget that there will be light changes, and your 1 o'clock is not going to look like 5. So I had a drastic like shift of lighting, but I had put a screen over the window. Like if you see the scene where she's at the table taking calls and stuff, in the beginning of the scene, we took off the screen so that there was a lot of light coming in. But towards the end of the day, it was a drastic change. So I've done a bit of grading and, you know, fixing it in post, which is not recommended. So it's always recommended to like just plan out everything. You'd rather take a longer time in pre-prod than, you know, going into like editing and trying to fix things like those. Another thing is that I'd mentioned earlier that my storytelling skills are still not yet, you know, just so a lot of people missed the point. So I literally had to add, this is a community first, because they're like, what does she do? I've seen her answering the call, but I just don't get it. But it was also because of the 2-minute limitations. It was very hard to get like a lot more information in there. But I feel like a tight story, working with a script writer, running it through your friends, also just having them read it and be like, does it make sense? Then, you know, receiving the harsh criticism, it really helped so that you have a tight story in the end. Yeah, that's all I would say. Otherwise, yeah, filming was fine. I'd been shooting for a while, so I was comfortable with the gear, and yeah, everything else was really good.
How
Yeah.
long did it take to film that? How many days, or, you know?
So it was pre-prod, I think, was about 5 days. Shooting one day, like almost 24 hours, and then edit another week after that. Yeah, I was chasing the deadline.
Okay.
But yeah, that's how long it
All
took.
right. Agi, tell us about, you know, some of the lessons you've learned along the way as you were filming this, and maybe any other lessons, you know, that we can learn from and mistakes to avoid.
I mean, the main lesson is just do it. Like, I applaud Emma for having an idea, pursuing it, and doing it, and you learn as you go. You're never ever, even Martin Scorsese will tell you, you're never ever at your best, where you're like, okay, now I've reached my best. Ask them. Like, even when they've done something that's so wow, everyone's like, no, I could have done it better. You know, you're always learning and you're always getting something to use for the next one. So the main message is basically just keep doing it. Don't think, okay, I have to wait until I have the degree or until I have the, you know, the experience, because you just have an idea, do it. And I feel like it's so good that we are living in a time where we, you know, anyways, like if you have something and you want to do it, just pursue it, just go for it. Doesn't matter whether it has sound issues, you have to fix it in post, whatever the case, you've done it. That's huge. There's so many people who are thinking, oh, I could have done something and I didn't. So that's the main message. I mean, what was the other question? So what's the lesson and mistakes that I made? Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think mainly I was super ambitious. I thought it was going to be so straightforward. And I was just like, yeah, I have a vision in my head. I just tell people and it'll translate and they'll give it to me. And then I was learning as I go that actually that's not the case. And I was getting really frustrated because I was like, and there was one time I was like, can you reshoot it? And it's a lot to ask of like, can you reshoot something because it's not my vision? So I think maybe the lesson would be, or rather the mistake is having expectations that weren't realistic, especially knowing that I'm not on the ground, communicating better, better pre-production maybe, and yeah, generally just being a bit easy on myself. Like I'm generally really hard on myself. I'm very competitive with myself. So yeah, I think maybe the mistake I made was just, you know, being unrealistic and having expectations that just weren't real. Yeah, they just weren't possible. In the end, I'm really happy with what I had, but then I did go through a point of like, maybe there's nothing here. Do you know what I mean?
And how do you think your experience as a music video, because you used to edit music video or cut music videos? I
I
think I saw
did.
that in your
I
bio.
did.
So,
I did Hura Tete, if you remember that. Hura Tete.
hey,
That was me.
I see,
Yeah,
I see.
back in the day.
So
So it
how
shows
do
how
you,
old I am.
all these goals?
It is indeed. Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do you think that experience of editing music videos has shaped you as a storyteller and as a director? Because I think there's something
Um,
there, you know, there's something you have that we don't have because we haven't done music videos.
I wouldn't give music videos that much credit. Of course, it does. It did help shape me for sure. But I would give a lot more credit to just having tried so many different things, because I've done so many different things. And I feel like having played different roles, I'm so much more of a better director because I have better understanding and empathy for the different roles that exist, as opposed to if I was always going to be a director or if I was always going to be a director of drama. Because I've done music videos and commercials and, you know, like marketing campaigns and TV shows, talk shows, drama, film, like because of having done all these different genres and wearing different shoes and being a grip, like I have so much respect. I'm the kind of person who, if you work with me, I don't know why we haven't worked together, Damaris. I keep feeling like we should have done by now, but
We should have
it's one of the.
crossed paths. We will cross paths. Don't worry, we shall.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm the kind of person I want to believe, and hopefully someone else will agree that I'm the kind of person because of where I started. If you're working on my set, I know everybody's names. I try and converse with other people, and people have told me later on, like, you're the only director who even came up to ask, okay, you know, how did I sleep last night, kind of thing. I like to make everybody feel like we're on the same page because I know the pain. I don't like working, and I have worked in sets where you see the hierarchy. I really don't like that. I'd rather like you know you respect everyone's role because all of it is very important. All of it adds to, and goes back to collaboration. You cannot work if you don't have food. So the catering department is very important. You cannot work if you don't have lights. You know, every single department is very important. So you treat them very well and you respect everybody. So I feel like because of my journey, I have a lot more empathy for other roles than I would have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's really important just bringing everyone on board on your vision, because you could
Yeah,
have this vision, and if you're the one who's, you know, I'm the one with a vision, everyone else is just, you know,
yeah,
KYMs, you know, people who are doing the work, then your vision gets lost somewhere. But if you collaborate with everyone and let everyone have a sense of ownership, then
yeah.
you end up having such a great product. And
Absolutely.
FYI, yeah, if you did a music video in Bongo, you know, Bongo for music video is like a full house movie production.
Yeah.
Like they really go all out and they learn so much, because there's a friend of mine who does, I think, set design for music videos in Bongo, and
Yeah.
she's like, it's a whole film right there. So I think our
Yeah.
Kenyan experience and Bongo experience is totally different when it comes to music videos.
I
All
mean, we're
right,
getting there. Let's not discredit where how far we've come as the Kenyan music industry. Let me tell you
let
that.
understand, you know.
Yeah, let's recognize the leaps and
Yeah,
strides we've made.
yeah, yeah. So let me ask, what is it? I'll start with Emma. What does it mean for you being an African filmmaker in these times? And is it something you even think about?
To be honest, not really, not that much. However, when I heard this question, I just thought about how there has always been systemic dysfunction in capitalistic societies, and more so in third world countries. However, what COVID kind of exposed was the rot is present in so many different societies, and Africans just started. It's like it began with the Black Lives Matter movement, in America, and I feel like it inspired something. It sparked something here, where you had countries like Nigeria rising up, and then South Africa just more recently. And I was telling people online, I was like, I mean, you're here laughing at people, stealing cake, but it's like, this thing is gonna happen here. It's like it's inevitable that if you push people to the wall, they're just gonna have to push back. And I feel like as an African living in this time, this is such as an African filmmaker, as an African woman filmmaker, this is such an important time to be in. And we have such a powerful tool, filmmaking, storytelling, and we have a task ahead of us to voice these issues as honestly and as bravely as possible, because these are not the times where, like, I mean, maybe they are, we could disappear for saying certain things, but we have so many tools to access the entire planet right now. If you make a movie here, someone in Mexico is watching it, whereas back in the day you had to, like, see the poster on the wall, go to that theater, sit down, watch this. Like, so right now we have so many tools, so many things that we can use to our advantage, and as Africans going through this, we are all going through it together, and that's what has been exposed right now. The issues they're having in Nigeria, same issues we're having here, same issues we're having in Uganda, same issues we're having in South Africa. So it's a bad and a good time to be an African filmmaker, so to speak, because there's a lot to be, there's a lot of work for us, and our films can be powerful and impactful. And so I feel like I'm thinking about it more that you've asked me. So yeah, just
Awesome. No,
It's a good answer.
This conversation is good. It's good, and I want to hear from Aggie, because especially Aggie, you're not here in Kenya right now. You're basically in the UK. So I really
want to work with Aggie.
Oh,
I want your number.
It can happen. Yeah, let's do it.
Number, come visit you, come film something.
Yeah, please, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell us, Aggie, about what it means for you being an African filmmaker in these times, and is it even something you think about?
All the time, constantly. I don't think it's a matter of these times. I think generally, as an African, anything, it's something which you're very, like, aware of. I would say though, I feel like, in a way, being in the UK has its pros and cons that are very different to being a filmmaker and an African in Kenya, and especially a female. But as a pro, I think I would say one of the best things about being an African filmmaker now, we are living in a very interesting time where there's a lot more desire for the African voice than ever before. There's more desire for more African faces, more inclusivity, more diversity. And so it's like, it's a great place to be, where people are actually paying attention, and actually not even paying attention, asking you, what do you have to say? We want to hear it. You have more opportunities for African filmmakers. You have more, like, funding opportunities coming up saying, okay, we're looking for African stories. It's great. It's a great time to be a filmmaker from Africa, because people are looking for our voices and our stories and want to hear it. So yeah, I mean, you hear about people complaining how for the longest time, growing up, all you saw was white faces. Our kids grew up, when we were kids growing up, watching cartoons that were white. Now you have more diversity on screen. So it's a great time, because there's that, definitely. I would say as an African, I feel more, as a female, sorry, I feel more aware of my gender when I'm in Kenya than when I'm here, which is very interesting. And that's a whole other discussion I don't want to go down. But generally speaking, there's something about people being like there's more emphasis on you being a woman in our African society. I'm not sure if it makes sense saying that to you. And so I feel like when I'm working in Kenya, I'm reminded quite a lot that I'm a female director, that I'm a female filmmaker, that I'm a woman. And it's not that in a bad way necessarily, but you do feel it. It does come up, and it can be in subtle ways. It can be from people whistling when you walk past. You know, it can be. It doesn't have to be in anything major, but it's something which all of us, I'm sure, I can see you nodding, Damaris, can relate to, which I don't experience here. So it's one of those things where, as an African filmmaker and as an African female filmmaker, there are two very different dynamics, but they're very interesting to put it together and to explain how different places give you different complexities, if that makes sense. But in terms of the advantages, I really feel like we're in a good place. We've got voices like Barry Jenkins and Steve McQueen, like doing films which have been done before, slave stories that have been done before, but because now there's a Black voice behind it, you connect with it in a different way. And that's very important. You know, like if you watch some of this content that's coming out now, it's like, you know the story, you know how it'll start and end, but for some reason, you can connect with it. It's more pungent because it's being told by a Black person. So we're in a good place in that regard.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I love the place we're at, you know, in terms of being African filmmakers. But then it's also a place that gives me, you know, shivers and butterflies, because we can't really miss that mark, you know, because there's a saying that says you got to know what was to know what is. And sometimes, just the other day, we were having a talk by Femi, I can't pronounce his other name. I will butcher it right now. But he's a Nigerian filmmaker, and he was telling us, you know, about stereotypes. You know, sometimes even as an African filmmaker, am I, you know, just when I put that camera there, am I just hyping up stereotypes about Africa, or am I an Africans, or am I doing something that is authentic to us? So it's somewhere, you know, something about going deeper into who we are, and not being afraid of the authentic conversations of us, you know, because sometimes you'll just end up, just because it's a Black face, but then everything else is from the West, you know, like there's nothing African there.
Yeah.
So we have to be really, we have to dig deeper, and you know, we can't miss the mark at this point, especially when everyone is so hot for, in terms of our content. So it's a conversation that, you know, we should keep having with ourselves, you know, looking inward, reflecting, talking more. We keep this conversation going, so we have
Absolutely.
really authentic stories, you know, about us, and not about what other people assume we are. So what next for you, Emma? What next for you, Aggie? What are some of the things that are out there in the pipeline, exciting stuff that you're working on, that Emma can actually come and, you know, dandia your project in UK, Aggie, you know?
Yes, from your lips to God's ears. Yeah, so I currently, we're waiting for the premiere of the documentary that I worked on with director Kwal Demapure from South Sudan. So that was a very interesting and very, I learned so much from that experience, because we shot several months here, several months in Juba. And yeah, and as a short, because I was DOPing, as a short filmmaker, trying to, you know, catch the eye level of the South Sudanese. It was very interesting. But yeah, so that's coming out this year, sometime this year. And I don't know if I mentioned that I'm also in the music industry. So I am releasing an EP, but want to do a visual album for it as well. So that's what I'm going to try and focus on for the next few months. I've been working with the Nest Collective as well on their Strictly Silk at Home editions. So we've been shooting a few of those episodes here within Nairobi, and they're amazing. They're all on YouTube, so you can all like watch them and stuff. Yeah, so that's
exciting. Aggie, what are you up to?
So after the success of Janjaruka, we are trying to see if we can do the second series. We've already worked on the script. I mean, it still needs a bit of work, but Yeah, we'd like to do second season of Janjaruka, especially leading up to the elections, because now the second season, I don't know if you know about Janjaruka, but it was talking about con and being conned, and we got celebrities to talk about being conned. So yeah, we want to talk more about corruption and leadership and helping people to vote properly for the next election. So hopefully that works out. Yeah, if everything works out, we'll be back in Kenya to film that next year. So Emma, I'll be in touch.
Absolutely. Those are things that are needed. Those are conversations that we're talking about that are very important for us as a people. So, our time is almost up. So I want us to each, give us your parting shot, Emma, some words of wisdom to upcoming filmmakers and Aggie as well. So we can wrap this up.
All right, so I'm basically just gonna echo what Aggie said. Is I just do it, just pick up the gear and do it. And another thing I learned in Juba, especially from Akwal, is that don't let gear intimidate you. Because I feel like for the longest time I was too scared to hold on to a gimbal because I was like, I'm going to break it. I don't know how to use this. Like the only way to learn is to actually go in and use it. And so that's why I'm super just impressed and wowed by Aggie working in grips, because grips is no joke. So it's like just whatever you have, go into it, use it. If you have the opportunity to access bigger gear, better. Don't feel intimidated as a woman. FemDP, if you want to be like a cinematographer, go and work with the lights, go put up the stands, just go and do it. Doing it is a lot better than not doing it. You're going to regret not doing it. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Amazing. And Greek people usually have their own, high table, food at time. Their own.
Yeah.
They need a lot. Have you seen the physical work?
Yeah, I remember filming where once we were carrying gear to the top of KICC. That was no joke. So parting shot for me is basically same thing Emma said. Basically, yeah, just do it. Just get out, do it. There's no such thing as a bad story. And don't, there's a quote, I'm going to butcher it if I try and say it, but it's something to do with like dying with a song in your heart. So just if you have something you want to say, just share it. Even if it doesn't end up coming across the way you want, just do it. So it's the same thing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you so much, Aggie. And Alex was not able to join us. We're meant to be, 4 of us. He had his second dose of, the vaccine, and, he's not doing well tonight. So, but we wish him all the best. It's been great. Let's continue with this kind of conversations where, we just want to better ourselves. We want to be better filmmakers. We want to be better storytellers. We want to be better African filmmakers representing ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Manyata Screenings, for this. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. There's more of this tomorrow, more films and more interviews. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's been great. I had a good time hanging out with you two ladies. Keep rocking, keep shining. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.